All right, everybody, welcome to the Real Caves and Cliffs update. I'm sorry, I don't buy into any of that part 2 nonsense. I don't know exactly what 1.17 was, maybe the axolotl update, but it wasn't Caves and Cliffs. 1.18, this is Caves and Cliffs, he says, while clearly still on 1.17 in the bottom left corner. Hold your horses, okay? We'll be on 1.18 in a minute, but we're here to do science. And in order to do science, we gotta start off on 1.17, because I'm sure there are some people who are thinking, yeah, 1.18 looks super cool and all, new extreme world generation, but what happens when I bring my existing worlds into 1.18 that were made in previous versions? So we're gonna test that. Well, yes, I might have already tested, but I don't like to go into videos completely blind, okay? I gotta know my stuff. So this will be Blendy 2, and we'll set it to creative and make a new world. And while we're loading, this is a great time to tell you all about our incredible sponsor, the like button, which you should be sure to click or tap below the video, depending upon what device you're watching on. Look at us here in a new world where I'm not gonna move around. What I'm gonna do is just fly up, and I have my render distance set very, very low to 6 chunks. Reason being, I just wanna get a nice little area here loaded, and then we're gonna take this into 1.18, and then we can just up the render distance, and all of a sudden we'll get a bunch of 1.18 chunks loading on the borders here, and we'll get to see how well they blend in, because that was like a huge thing that they announced during Minecraft Live.
But with blending, it will smooth out the terrain, so it looks like it fits more together.
Oh, good. Forest fire. I wonder if that'll carry over to 1.18. Anyway, I think maybe even cooler than just blending the chunks together on the surface is that in our existing 1.17 chunks here that we've already loaded, it's actually supposed to retroactively insert the negative Y value parts of the terrain where the deep slate is and whatnot. So right now, the world ends at Y equals 0, obviously, that's where the bedrock begins. We can't do anything below it. But once we bring this into 1.18, we'll have all of the stuff that would be under here as if we had just created the world. So your old worlds will have all the deep slate stuff, a bunch of new ores, places to strip mine, and I want to check that out in action. So that said, I think we've got a good overview of what this place looks like. So let's bring it on into 1.18 and see how it blends together. Oh, hey, that splash screen's more like it. Now I can actually say welcome to the Real Caves and Cliffs update. Okay, so we're gonna open up the same world on 1.18 here. The interesting thing is it doesn't even prompt you like, hey, this world is from a previous version. Are you sure you wanna load it? You could have issues. It's just like, nah, we're good. We've tested this a whole bunch. We know that it's gonna fit right into 1.18. You're not even gonna realize that it was an older world. Like usually when you're moving from previous versions to a new one, it'll like give you that little prompt, but here it's just like, no. You're good. We got you here. We tested this extensively. Your world's gonna be fine. So here we are. Everything looks the same because again, we haven't upped our render distance, but now this is gonna be the moment of truth here. Okay, so let's go into our video settings. And we're just gonna bring it way up, and it blends in. The swamp just continues, turns into plains over there. The mushroom forest continues. Wow. It's pretty impressive, actually. Honestly, you can't even tell. Dude, we got some mountains going. They're forming over there. That's some caves and cliffs terrain over there. Look at that. Look at that over there. You can't even tell, though. It just blends together. It's one cold swamp over there, and look, the forest fire even carried over. What do you know? Oh, there we go. Now it's blending into some new terrain. It's really cool. Yeah, you cannot tell where the initial chunks stopped and where the new ones began. There's no like jagged edges. Let's go underneath. Look at this. Okay, so this is really cool. So we're gonna get to Y equals 0 right here, and you can see, right, like all of the previous bedrock has been turned into deep slate, and you can see that there's a little bit of a cutoff there, right? It's not a smooth ending, and you can see all across this area in these chunks that we first loaded. Like you can kind of tell if you're in spectator mode, like where it ends. But then if you dig through, you're just gonna, right, end up down here. We haven't moved in the X or Z direction yet. So this is right underneath spawn. And you have all these new caves and cliffs, caves and deep slate areas, and you know, more diamonds over there chilling. Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. And obviously we only loaded a few chunks in our existing world. Like you take a world that you've been in for a while, a big existing one, and you're gonna have like so many new areas. And then of course what we can do is if we move over a little bit as we struggle with like the 30 chunk render distance, I want to try to make it to like the edge of where we generated before and see if we can notice a cutoff. I think we might. Is this a cutoff? It's hard to tell actually. The fact that it's hard for me to actually find the edges even underground is really, really impressive. I'm sure if we look closely enough, we can kind of find where like one of these caves just runs into a wall and doesn't keep going, kind of like this over here. But still, it's like pretty smoothly integrated. I think this is it right here. Yeah, you can kind of see that this whole area just gets cut off, right? And then this gets cut off here. So yeah, I believe that this right here might be our boundary. You really can't even tell where the old chunks were. Like if I keep flying around, I'm just gonna end up actually losing track of where my spawn location was. So color me impressed. They were confident about not needing to warn you, and I can see where that confidence came from. It's it blends in like super duper well. And this is probably the most extreme example where I can see in all directions, very little chunk loading, and then all of a sudden everything loads and blends together, and still it's hard to tell. So if you have a world that's bigger, right, it's going to be almost not noticeable at all. Let's go again. These chunks generated in 1.17. Let's increase our render distance and see how it blends. This is a new series on YouTube called Will It Blend? Never before seen, never before done. Look at that. Oh my God, there goes the swamp into big old caves and cliffs, mountains over there. Oh, and it's going, and it keeps, oh, and then there's a village on the mountain. Okay, this is, oh, look at that. Up it goes. Look at the blend. Will it blend? The answer is always yes, apparently. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, this was an absolute unit of a mountain range that generated like, we're in like a valley bowl tier. Oh, wow, dude, this is sick. Look at how this turned out. Mountains on all sides is crazy. This is the real caves and cliffs. That's what I'm talking about. It's perfect, just blends together incredibly. Okay, one more time. Now we got a jungle. It has a couple of rivers. It'll be interesting to see how those continue. Let's go again. Will they be super cool? It is. It's continuing the river. The river's still going. Oh, look at that. Still looks like fairly jungly. No like super big cliffs or anything like that, but it transitions into a desert. You just can't see the boundaries of where it starts and where it ends as far as the new chunks and the old chunks. Then we get a little bit of a hill over there up to a meadow, maybe. And then, you know, if we go down underneath, you don't even notice. Like the mine shaft looks like it's continued as you expected. If I were wandering through that, I wouldn't have even realized that I crossed into new chunks. And then this is all underneath the existing stuff anyway, as you can see where the cutoff is here. That's really the only thing that you can still see is if you're in spectator and you get right along y equals 0 in the existing chunks, you can kind of see that divide of deep slate where the upper caves don't connect into the lower caves. But beyond that, it's like, I mean, look at this. This is sick. This is awesome. I did want to show a couple things though in that first world that I tested out in before I started recording, because there are sometimes little things that can happen, but not really a big deal in compared to how well the whole blending together seems to work, because it works really well. It's very impressive. Oh, it's so cool. Overall, everything works really well as you've seen, but occasionally there's a hiccup, like a village starting to load on the edge of your 1.17 chunks, and then you bring it into 1.18 and it's like, hey, look, the ground blended together really nicely, but the house might have gotten cut in half and the rest of the village didn't generate. But it's a small price to pay for the beautiful chunk blending we get everywhere else. Also, this tree might have lost a few leaves, but you're still a beautiful tree. You've still got plenty of leaves on that side. You only look slightly like Two-Face if one of Two-Face's halves were just not there. The one nice thing about this, though, is that in previous worlds, I was having trouble figuring out exactly where the edge of the new and old chunks was. This gives us a really nice indicator so we can go underground and see exactly what it looks like right on that border. And now that we're here and we know it, like it's a little bit easier to see, right? You can see this cave kind of ends a bit abruptly. It happens kind of on either side here. But ultimately, like if you're down there mining or in a cave, right? You're not in spectator mode. It's gonna be pretty hard to notice, right? You're not gonna reach the end of this right here and be like, oh, that cave was definitely supposed to go further, but it definitely just got cut off due to the new terrain generation. Like, no, it'd be really, really hard to tell, actually. So even knowing exactly where it is, like it's well done, other than the chopped in half house. So sorry again, villagers, but those are the casualties of progress. All right. Well, anyway, I think that pretty much wraps it up here. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm thoroughly pleased by how this has turned out. Hopefully you found it informative. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, stay tuned for more stuff from 1.18 or whatever comes in the future. And that's pretty much it. I'll see you next time.